first I'll just start off with the actual process of uninstalling this system and installing the ImoLaza Smart Sprinkler Controller. Very clean looking. I love the white and the design of the system. Certainly an upgrade visually over the current system that we have on the wall. Tip before we get started, you're gonna wanna test every zone of your system with your old controller. Like I mentioned before, this process of changing these out is super easy and we don't anticipate any issues. But this way, if we do run across any problems, we'll know that it wasn't a pre-existing problem and that it was something to do with how we uninstalled this one and reinstalled the new one. Also keep in mind, you're gonna need a Wi-Fi signal wherever you install this at, so you can check that with your phone beforehand just to confirm that you've got a Wi-Fi signal. This is an indoor controller. It is not waterproof. So if you're in your garage like me, you're perfect. If you do need to set it up on the outside of your house, they sell a waterproof case that you can install it and put it inside of to protect it from the outside elements. Start off by pulling this old controller off the wall. Clearly you need to unplug it first. And then you're gonna wanna access where the wires are plugged in here. At this point in the process, I'd highly recommend taking a picture of your existing wiring in case you need to look back at it to see which wire went to which terminal on your existing controller. And then what we're gonna do is just one by one unscrew these terminals and pull out the wires. And then we'll use the labels that came with our new controller to label them. And that way, when we go to reinstall these, we know exactly where they go. If you're not an expert, you don't know what exactly each of these does or what their purpose is, the best thing you can do is just label them exactly how it says on your existing terminal, and then we'll match them up on the new controller. Okay, now that I've got all my wires labeled, I can go ahead and pull my old controller off the wall. We need to get our new anchor holes in so we can mount our new controller. Luckily, ImoLaza provided some good tools for this. So they've got this mounting template here that matches up exactly with the mounting holes that you can see on the back of the controller. So if you can reuse existing holes, great. If not, you'll need to move this around and mark your new holes. A couple things you're gonna wanna check during this process. Number one is that you need to keep these bottom holes level with the ground. And then number two, wherever this gets mounted, you gotta remember if you're like me, you got this PVC pipe here, you wanna make it so that it's close enough to this so that these wires reach our new terminals, but obviously it can't be too low where this PVC pipe will run into the actual controller itself. For me personally, I'm gonna make 3 new mounting holes, so I'll go ahead and rip out these old anchors so that my new system can sit flush against the wall. Get a hold of it, the plastic anchor, and then just pulls right out. Once you figure out exactly where to mark it, pretty simple, use your template, mark your 3 holes, and that's where we'll install our drywall anchors. I'll use a 1/8 drill bit just to punch some holes in the wall that I can then insert my anchors into. All right, with our new anchors in place, we're ready to mount our ImoLaza controller. And it's simple as taking the controller, getting the screws they provided. You can see I've got one already through there to help align it up, and then we'll just screw them into the anchors. Okay, obviously we want this thing secure against the wall, but just remember you're dealing with plastic here. We don't need to over tighten or accidentally crack anything. Just get it snug on there so it's firm and not moving it around anywhere, and that'll be good enough. Okay, now we'll go through the process of reattaching the wires. Again, you're gonna wanna reference that picture you took of your old controller as well as the labels that you put on the wires. Most likely, you're only gonna be replacing this COM one with the C and then these zone wires, right? So for me, I've only got 6 zones in my system, so I'll just stick to this left side that's got 8 options here. We'll just loosen up 1 screw at a time here. Then you'll insert the wire up into that slot, and then you'll tighten it to clamp down on that wire. And you'll just want to give it a little bit of kind of a tug to make sure that it's not loose and won't fall out on its own. We are dealing with a lot of wires in a tight space here, so they will get pushed around. And if it's not in there secure, you'll have one pop out. So I've gone ahead and loosened all my terminals here so that all I have to do is insert the wire in and then tighten them up. I'll show you this first one and then I'll go through the other ones rather quickly, but you really do want to just take your time, make sure you get the wire pressed all the way up into the terminal so that when you tighten it up, it gets clamped down. It can be a little tricky working in these small spaces with these wires, but just stay patient and you can get it. So you can see that first one I've gotten tightened down. Now I can pull on this white common wire and it's not coming out. So I know I've got got it in place secure and I can move on to my next wire. Okay, we got all our wires connected and secure. I had enough flexibility in my wires that it was kind of not too bad for me. If you are having issues, you know, getting these in here or moving around, you can also loosen your controller that you mounted on here and connect your wires first and then get everything in place and tighten the controller on the wall. Sometimes that'll help make this process a little easier because you'll have a little more flexibility. And then once this is all connected in, you can secure everything to the wall a little better. So you've just got a simple power connector here for your cable. You can put in here, and then you should have a plug nearby from your old controller that you can utilize as well. Okay, so when you first plug your controller in, you'll see this flashing green light. This just means that the system is looking to connect to the Wi-Fi. Obviously, we haven't set any of that up yet, so it's gonna continue to search for it, right? Let's just go through and make sure that our zones are working. So the way you do this is just by manually activating each zone. So pretty intuitive on the buttons here. All we're gonna do is use these forward and back buttons to go select which zone we wanna do. So in my case, I'll just do zone 1, and then you hit the play button, and that'll actually manually water your system. I think the default time for the manual setting is like 3 minutes. So you can see here, it's successfully activated zone 1. Which means that I've got my wires hooked up correctly. I can go through and stop this zone now. And I can go to zone 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and do the same thing and just make sure that all 6 zones are functioning properly and that our wires are connected and they're good. And once we know all that's good, we can move to the actual smart setup portion of this installation. To download the app, ImoLaza makes it super easy. They've got a QR code in the book here you can utilize. I'll just pick the Apple one because I'm using an iPhone. And that'll take you directly to their app in the App Store, and we can just download that really quickly. If you're a new user, you'll have to create an account. Once you've registered, you'll have to go over to your email and just confirm the registration. After that's done, you can go back to your app and sign in. All right, so the 2 things we're gonna wanna do before we move forward with adding a controller. Number 1 is we're gonna wanna reset our ImoLaza controller here. So we're gonna hit this button, reset, and hold it for 5 seconds. And you'll see the light go blank and then load back up. And you'll get to that blinking green there, which means that it's searching for Wi-Fi. The second thing we're gonna wanna do is just make sure that our phone is connected to the Wi-Fi network that we're gonna want to set up with our sprinkler controller. And lastly, just make sure that you have Bluetooth on your phone turned on, because that's what's gonna be used to make the initial connection between our phone and the controller to get things set up. Once you've checked all that, you can go ahead and just click that Add Controller button and then hit Next. And then your controller will pull up automatically through that Bluetooth connection. You can see mine here has the 16 zone ImoLaza controller. I'll click on that. Here it gives you a opportunity to rename the controller if you want to. I'll leave mine the same for now. And then now it's gonna want to get the Wi-Fi hooked up to the controller itself. So the easiest way to do this, obviously, is this green square here that says Get Phones Wi-Fi, and that's why we want to be connected to the network that we're going to use. So I'll click on that, hit Next, and it'll show you that what the current Wi-Fi network that you're connected to is, and then you can go ahead and put in that password and then hit connect. Once that's loaded in there, all we gotta do now is hit next. And now the controller will search for that Wi-Fi network and get connected to it. As it's connecting to the controller, you can see the lights change, and now we've got to the full green circle, and we've got the indication that our device was added successfully. Next, we'll have the option to add our address. So we'll go ahead and search for our address and put it in, and then just confirm it. And then it'll give you some options as far as the closest weather device that you want to go off of for the weather planning. Now here, it'll give you the option to finish here and come back later, or if you're ready to go ahead and set up your zones, you can just click that set up zones. And then it's going to want you to go outside as you walk through this. And now it'll give you options to set up your 16 zones. Like we saw before, I only have 6 zones. So we'll just set up these first 6. And we'll test the zones. You've got some options here. You can click here to take a photo of the zone itself so you can remember exactly which area of the grass you're watering for each zone. And then you've got some more additional options here of exactly what you're watering, whether it's trees, shrubs, grass, and different kinds of landscaping. We'll go ahead and click grass for ours. There's some more detailed options here as well as far as root zone depth, crop coefficients, stuff like that. For most people, we're just gonna leave these the defaults that it has here. Now you can go through exactly what type of sprinklers are there, whether it's drip lines, misters, spray heads, rotaries. All of the irrigation in my zones are all fixed spray heads, so I'll leave them the same as there. And then your soil type, and then the sunlight type. So a couple of my zones are definitely covered in shade a lot, and there's some that are always in the sun. So this is also helpful as far as with the automated planning, as far as how much water it needs to get. And then lastly, you have your slope type, flat, all the way to steep on how much runoff you're gonna have for each zone. So once you get through all that, now you've got that first zone set up successfully, and you can go through all your zones and do the same thing. Once I have my 6 zones set up, I'll go through for these other zones and just mark them as inactive by clicking this tap to disable button. If you ever do add more zones in the future, whether it's shrubs and drip lines, or adding on to different areas of your yard, or however you want to do it, you'll be able to come back in here and set these back up again. Once all of our zones are set up, we can go ahead and hit back and just hit finish. The first thing it might do once you've got it all set up is just ask you to update your firmware version of your controller itself. Now that's connected to Wi-Fi, so we'll go ahead and run through that process. Once the firmware has been updated, we now have got our fully functioning controller online and ready to dive into some of the different features and abilities. So the first thing that you'll want to do is go in and set your schedules for each zone. So you'll do this by clicking on schedules at the bottom. And then you can see here, I've got nothing in here right now because it's a brand new. So I will just click add schedule and then next. So right away, it'll give you some options for some automated schedules. It's got some options for new grass. If you've got new sod down that you're gonna require that high frequency watering, it's got a fixed schedule. And then it's also got this ET Smart Schedule that it says it's best for kind of existing established lawns that you're going to want to integrate with kind of the more intelligent weather models and stuff like that ImoLaza is utilizing to optimize how much water that each zone's getting to make it as healthy as possible. I'll start off mine with the fixed schedule and then just hit next. Now I'll go through and pick which zones that we want to water as part of the schedule. So I've got all 6 zones that I'm using here. And then now you have your total watering time, right? So this shows you that right now each zone is going to be watered for 5 minutes. I'll run through and do some quick adjustments for this based on kind of the schedule I used on my old controller. And we'll go from there. Once you've got it set how you want, just click confirm and adjust sequence. You can reorder these if you want. For me, it makes no difference. I'll just start with 1 and go through 6. Here it's going to ask you an option if you want to add a smart cycle. So basically, smart cycle is something that means basically you're watering for less time for each zone, but then it's going to run through each zone multiple times in multiple cycles, right? So this is good if you're watering your lawn and you notice a ton of runoff or a ton of water rolling down the driveway or into the street. You might want to look into doing a cycle like this. That will mean that more water will actually be absorbed into your lawn and not be running off down into the drain. I'll go ahead and just try the smart cycle system and I'll hit next. Here's where you can start integrating some of this stuff into the Weather Genius that it uses. So if you get a certain amount of rain, it'll skip the scheduled cycle. Obviously a freeze, it'll skip, and then it's even got a wind one here where if you're over a certain mile per hour and that irrigation spray is just gonna get blown all over the place and not into your lawn, it'll skip that as well. Now we can pick what days we want to water on, whether it's every day, specific days, odd or even. So for now, we're getting ready for the summer season. So I like to water my lawn every other day. So I'll just pick odd days. And then I'll have it start tomorrow. And I'll just leave the end date as never. Here you can say when you want to run the schedule. So recommended is to end before sunrise, which is what I would typically do anyway. So I'll leave that picked and hit next. Here we can set a name for our schedule. This is good in case you have multiple schedules going on for different zones or for whatever reason. You can name them to separate them. I'll just call this my weekly irrigation because this is my main schedule I'll be using. I'll hit confirm. And here you just got a page that shows you that you've created this schedule successfully and you can hit finish. So now you can see I've got a schedule that shows up, and I've even got a calendar here that shows what days it's gonna water on, all the odd days, 11th, 13th, 15th, and so on. If you wanna add more schedules in, obviously you just go through that same process, hit the add schedule button again, and walk through your second schedule that you wanna set up. Once you got everything set up exactly how you like it, you can take the cover of your system and pop it back on there to get that nice, clean, modern look. All in all, it took me about 30 minutes, and that was with filming some of this, so you can probably do it even faster than that. And then the app setup, or Wi-Fi connect and app setup, took about 15, 20 more minutes. It was really simple setting up kind of my default zones. I'm excited to get into the app and just kind of check out some of the more advanced features so I can start looking at optimization for different zones and using some of the smart weather capabilities that the system has. If you're interested in getting a system yourself, I'll put a link in the description below. If this helped you out with your installation, please consider giving a like or even subscribing to the channel. And if you have any questions or recommendations on what I could have done better, please put them in the comments below and I'll try to respond to them.